Have the class, I just like to talk for a minute. One of the ways of mastering an inner life, which is always a difficult undertaking, is the consistency of practice over time. You know, we have spent most of our lives living with this person that exists inside ourselves. You know, a lot of it's unhappy, then there's joy, there's love, there's all kinds of us's that live inside us, you know? And the purpose of the meditation is to, learn how to transform those heavy energies that exist inside just about every human being into lightness, into love, into joy, into a spiritual life, into, a lightness of being that is just a wonderful way to spend the day without being weighed down by unhappiness and depression and heaviness. And this work is about that. You understand? We're trying to make room for a higher energy, God, whatever one wants to call that, to live inside us. That energy can't live inside us if we are heavy all the time. If we're totally caught up in our heads and our emotions, our sexual energy, and we're driven, to the edge by these energies that control the way we function every day. So the work is about getting free of this. It's about learning how to build an inner life that is strong enough to overcome all the heaviness that exists inside of people. And I think that's a miraculous work. There would be less craziness in the world if people would just learn how to master themselves. And that really is the essence of what we do. It's the essence of what I was taught by my teacher. And it's the essence of what I'm trying to teach everyone that please, Ruth, try and sit still, please. Try and sit still, please. Because if you move, I know you're by yourself there, but it disrupts the whole energy of everybody that's in the class. So it's really important to sit still. Thank you. And that's what this is about, we have to make room inside us for higher energy to live. And if we spend all our time just buzzing around in the brain and, having all this emotional quicksand that sucks us dry every day, there's no room for God to come live inside us. And the true voice of God is what? It's joy, it's love, it's happiness. It's truly, living with this lightness of being that enables us to enjoy the day that we're given, the miracle of the day that we're given. It's incredible. When you look out and look at the world, everything you see in life is a manifestation of higher energy in the universe, which makes everything that we see and do, including everything that goes on inside us, sacred. The problem is the lack of consciousness. The problem is the inability to embrace life, to let life be our teacher, to open to these things that can help us get free of what drags us down all the time. We are the children of God, we're born on the earth to learn how to live consciously. We're not born on the earth to learn how to live in an unhappy state of being. And being the children of God, we have to learn how to be the receptors of higher energy in the universe, how to allow it to come into us and to guide us in the way we function every day. And that, to me, is the key of any kind of religion, spiritual practice. It's the key to this meditation, which is non-denominational. It has nothing to do with religion. It has only to do with learning how to live a spiritual life, learning how to become one with higher energy in the universe. And if we're full of ourselves and we're full of all of that chaos that goes on inside people, there's no room for higher energy. You can only fit so much water in a cup, and if the cup is full of ego and unhappiness and anxiety and depression and blah, 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 what room is there for higher energy to live there? We are keeping it from entering us and living inside us and allowing us to truly be happy people and to live wonderful lives. You know, not lives that are full of all that heaviness that so many people live with in this world. By building a chakra system, by developing the foundation inside us, opening the heart, getting the mind quiet, by doing all these things, we make room in ourselves for a higher energy to flourish, to come into fruition. And then we allow that energy to truly guide our lives, how we interact with people, how we, do our jobs, how we treat our families, how we, so it's really a conscious way of living. But how does that happen unless people are willing to do the work on themselves that enable them to do what I'm talking about? There's no mystery in any of this. There really isn't. It's, do you do the work on yourself to really master, or do you spend your life being a product of ego and mind and depression and unhappiness? As I say all the time, I am not the guru. My job is to help people learn to do what I'm talking about. Not to be a guru, not to be worshipped as some sacred being. And I mean, to me, it's just a boring way to live, but to teach people how to do what I'm talking about. That is the job that I've been given on this planet. And I'm very grateful for this job because it allows me to grow and it allows me to connect with God, because that's the only way it can happen. The energy that flows through is called Shakti. And that energy makes everything possible that I'm talking about. So please, everyone, try to work really deep inside and try to really open to that higher energy and try to just get out of the way, stop being a hindrance to this incredible possibility that exists and self-worth that exists, that could truly exist in the life of every single human being. So we'll have a meditation class, and afterwards, if anyone has any questions they would like to ask, I'll be happy to try and answer them. And bless you all for being here, and we'll do the meditation now. Muted, everyone. And does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
I have a question, Stuart. You mentioned about take someone in, like the person, let's say, that would be sending prayers for. Could you just tell me what you mean by take someone in?
Exactly what I said, to allow people that are close to you, people in your family, people that are friends, to find a place inside yourself where you're vulnerable and you can really allow them to live without possessing them. Without possessing them. Problem is we get involved in relationships and we start possessing people. They become our possession instead of allowing them to come in and allowing them to also be independent and live their lives. And sometimes they disappear, but they're not our possession. You understand? We have to be strong enough to give people the freedom to be. And part of it is being vulnerable, but being vulnerable doesn't work unless you have a really strong inner life. You're really grounded inside. And then you're not afraid to allow people to, in order for me to do these classes, every one of you has to really be inside me without me possessing anyone, because that's not the point. I have to be able to open my heart and find a connection with every person that's sitting in these classes. And if I'm not vulnerable, that's not possible. And in order to be vulnerable without going through, emotional and mental hell, you really have to have a strong foundation. You have to have an open heart, and you have to not possess anyone. You just allow them to come and live inside you. And the best place is one's heart. I remember, with Rudy, he was talking how his, teachings are really growing, and they were. There was a time when there were people coming from all over the last year and a half of his life. People were coming from everywhere. And somebody said, well, what happens if you get 1,000 students? And he said, I'll have to just take them all into my heart. Great teaching for me. Because I can't do what I do unless the people in this class fit into my heart. There's love, unconditional love. So there's a place inside for every one of you. At the same time, my job isn't to control anybody, it's to nurture people and then wean them so they can have their own independent connection with God and life and creativity and whatever they're supposed to do on this planet, why they were born, the purpose, their purpose for having been born here. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And, just to finish, it eliminates fear, insecurity, judgment. It eliminates all this crap that so congests people that nobody can come live inside, and they're afraid. They're afraid of being hurt. And frankly, you can't be hurt in life if you're open. You can only be hurt in life if you're closed. I mean that. If you're open and connected to Spirit, God, what can hurt you? Somebody says something nasty about you, who gives a shit, Because the most important connection is with higher energy in the universe. And that's where your source of energy is. It's not from other people. Most people live here, they're like vampires, just living off of each other's energies. And that's why there's so much fighting and arguing and opinions and, likes and dislikes. And, there's so much trouble. It's very like in families, friendships. Because people are living off of each other's energy. They're not connected to higher energy in the universe. And to me, that's essential, Because I don't want to come here like a vacuum cleaner sucking all of you dry. It would be ridiculous. What's the point of these classes? Understand, the point of these classes is to go deep enough to allow the Shakti to flow so people get nourished without controlling anybody, without creating some kind of, lineage and whatever people create in order to control other people. It's very dangerous, that stuff. The wonderful thing about Rudy's work is, he always talked about 4 sons and it never manifested. But what he did talk about that did manifest was if you work your ass off, if you really work inside, you get it. And then the universe, God, whatever, can use you in terms of being a teacher, being a, Being a teacher is not just sitting there and pumping energy into people. It really has to do with how vulnerable one is, how deep one goes inside themselves, how nurturing that energy can be, and how it gives life, so that people can find their direction and why they were born here and what their purpose is for being on the planet Earth. And I really like that. I don't want to have clones of Stuart, sitting in front of me. What a bore, Because even Rudy told me when he said, look, you can be a second-rate Rudy or a first-rate Stuart. He once told me this. Don't be me. Don't try and be me. Just truly find your own inner connection with God. And use what I teach you and Shakti that I give you as a way of finding that. Told me that, I don't know, a dozen times, maybe more, You'd be a second-rate Rudy or a first-rate Stuart. Told me a lot of stuff that got clear. Sometimes 10 years after he passed on, it became clear to me the amazing things he told me, that I needed to grow into them. What he told me that was so far beyond me and beyond my comprehension that Stuart had to work for years on himself just to grow into those things that he was telling me. And I always knew they were amazing things, but they were so far out of my realm of experience and spiritual development. And it took years, even after he passed on, years of working to grow into those things, to organically allow them to become part of me. Does anyone else have a question I would like to ask?
Hi, Stuart.
Yes.
Does being vulnerable equal having an open heart? Not being weak, but
Well, you're not going to have an open heart if you're not vulnerable. Your heart can't open. Because then you're setting up all these protective zones around you to keep from being hurt. And all you're doing is hurting yourself. You got to be vulnerable. You have to let things, look, in order to learn how to master being hurt, we have to get hurt in life, And that doesn't mean we set up all these defense mechanisms. We get stronger because of it. We open deeper because of it. We build a system, you understand, that can deal with that and transform it into love. And that's being vulnerable. And how do you do that unless other people can come, come and live in you, be part of your life?
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay. I have, something happened today. I have to talk just to finish up. One of the hard things about doing the Zoom class is people leaving. They just cut themselves off, or the computer does it, or the device does it, or, Wi-Fi cuts out. And I know I'm working with somebody, and then suddenly the whole bunch of people just bounce around the screen. and it makes it very hard because I'm trying to really nurture somebody deeply, and then there's somebody else sitting there. I don't know how to resolve that problem, but I wish I could talk to the Zoom people. If somebody leaves, nothing bounces. It all just stays there, It It would be very good. I don't know how to fix this, but it happens every, like I know Christine has a bad back, so but her name is there, so nothing moves. But when people just cut the class out, everybody moves. It becomes like, what's going on? Where was the person I'm working with? You know, it happened with you, Bob. I was working with you and, Bob Anderson, and suddenly somebody left and you were not there anymore. And it's a big problem, and I don't know how to fix it because it's been happening since I started doing these classes. If anybody knows how to fix that, and how to keep that from happening, because I know people are going to do this. They haven't stopped doing it, and they're going to continue doing this for whatever reason. And there might be a way to keep this people from bouncing around so that I can continue working with somebody and that people can get the ultimate benefit from the meditation. Anyway, I just had to tell you, if somebody has an idea, just email me, let me know there's something I can do to keep people in their place so they don't bounce every time somebody leaves. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, well, anyway, bless you all. Thank you. And there'll be a meditation tomorrow evening. And be vulnerable, take it inside, deep inside yourself. Let it touch the deepest part of your being inside. And when you do that, you make room for spiritual energy to do that. And it really helps the growth process. And sometimes it's not easy because everybody's been hurt in life. And we like to prevent being hurt. And you're not going to prevent being hurt. And all you're doing is damage to yourself, by setting up all these walls inside and protections. So thank you, bless you all. I will hopefully see you all tomorrow in the class. And all my love and gratitude that we can do this and share this together. So thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you,
Thank
Stuart.
you so much.
Thank you so
So much.
Good night.